Yeah, I just wanted to give y'all the backdrop on why I'm even talking about the moon, because it might sound crazy, because it sounded crazy to me. That's why I had never even entertained it before. Like when people say the moon is hollow and all that shit, the moon is made out of cheese and shit like that. But it's actually quite interesting when you understand that the reason why people are saying the moon is hollow is because, for one, NASA admits, or astronauts that were a part of Apollo's, trips up there, where they either dropped spacecrafts or dropped probes or crashed the craft itself into the moon.
Yeah.
And maybe you already know this, bro. They said it rang like a gong.
Yeah.
On more than one occasion.
Yeah,
one was for like 8 hours, and one was even longer than that.
Yeah.
And then there's a book that started all of this. They said this theory came in science fiction first, and they credit this guy, H.G. Wells, who wrote the book, The First Men on the Moon, in 1901, about the hollow moon.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of that in the backdrop. I like to get the backdrop before I speed into what I'm talking about now.
So H.G. Wells wrote a gang of books.
I want to know where this shit even came from. Just like when I delved into the plane theory, of flat Earth theory.
He hung out with Aleister Crowley. H.G. Wells.
So I approach this the same way, man, because it correlates to me, brother. Like, now that I'm thinking about it and I've learned more, and I'm open to this, the moon being hollow. Just like how I said there's extra land beyond the poles.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, damn, if this shit is hollow and they're monitoring us and this shit is just circling us, you know what I mean? And we only see one side, so you have no clue what's going on the other side. Now I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, that's another thing they're hiding.
What if the other side's like a fucking fucked up ass like stage prop and there's nothing there? It's like a bunch of beams and like still like fully exposed, like just like heater ducts and shit, bro.
Like where they shoot movies and shit.
Yeah, bro.
And it's just a facade.
Yeah, it's a big old facade on this side.
I wouldn't doubt it, bro, because we only, according to this research, we only see between 50 and 60%. Period. Ever. Yeah. And they call it the dark side, but it's not dark. It's just the far side.
Yeah.
Because we can't see it.
Yeah.
So
I've seen papers, remember we discussed, where there's a fucking atmosphere on the moon, and then on that side, the dark side, there's actually foliage and fucking an atmosphere and all kinds of shit.
Man, this stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so Knight and Butler's main reasoning behind this idea is that they're seismometers.
There you go.
Seismometers. There we go. Thank you, brother.
I
knew I was going to get it eventually.
I like seismometer.
Seismometers. Fitted on the surface of the moon by Apollo missions, which took the data of moonquakes from 69 to 77. That's 1969 to 77.
Yeah.
Scientists on Earth reacted to some of these quakes, saying the moon rang like a bell, like we just said. Apollo 13 module struck the moon, equivalent with 11 tons of TNT, because they want to do it again. Rang like a gong for 3 full hours. And that was based on seismometers that were 100 miles away that got that reading. So if you would have had them probably nearer to the site, then it would have even gave a stronger gong effect. So yeah, that led them to believe that it's hollow. That, and along with the fact that the craters on the moon, they have a problem with those, because they say if those were from impacts of asteroids, whatever, space dust, whatever they postulate, they would have been deeper. And why are all of them similar depth? The only difference is the amount that they spread out, which would mean that they postulate that this moon has a hard exterior, metallic maybe or something, and it has most of its mass or density in the first layer of it. So that's what protects it from any impacts. But it's not like the Earth, where if it hit, it would dig into the Earth. It can't dig into the moon or whatever. That's why we see these massive craters.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things like that make people believe that it's not the structure that we may think it is, or it's not a normal moon like the rest of the moons that we see on other planets, planet systems. I don't know if you want to jump in before I just keep going.
Nah, I think it's fucking phenomenal. Yeah, did you happen to see the video with, hold on, Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick?
The one that talked about him being involved in the moon landing?
Where he said he directed that shit.
Yeah,
he directed the fake moon landing.
Yeah.
You guys, if you haven't seen that, It's on YouTube. Check it out. Stanley Kubrick admitting that was hard because it was for him the work of his lifetime, brother, and he wasn't able to take credit for it.
And look into Buzz Aldrin and Lance. What's the other guy's name?
Was it Lance Armstrong that wouldn't admit that
Lance Armstrong
on the Bible he wouldn't swear on the Bible?
Just
He's
look
like,
into. They
from
said
me.
all kind of strange things, bro, over the years.
Yeah.
Cryptic things, you know.
Yeah.
Where if you're not thinking about it this way, just like me and you said, most people give the assumption of it is what they're saying. But if you're not just assuming what they're saying is what they're saying, then you're like, holy shit, bro. They're like kind of telling on themselves.
Yeah.
If you're looking for that,
Right.
you know. And again, maybe me and you look for that too much. Again, it goes into that confirmation bias. But hey, we're putting this shit out because that's the information that has led us to make these connections. You know what I'm
We'd be
saying?
good cops, though.
The things are connecting, you know, where
'Cause
other
we-
people
we-
are just okay with things not connecting and just by chance. Everything's by
Yeah.
chance.
And even if we're wrong, we'd be, like I said, we'd be good cops because we're blaming people for shit they didn't do. Fuck it.
We're not blaming anybody.
I know.
I got
I'm
you.
making
I
it
got
funny.
you. I got you.
I'm making it funny, James.
I
You're
follow.
blowing it. Nah, you blew my joke.
I follow.
You blew my joke.
You said like cops.
Continue
Let's
with
go.
your lunacy. You see
There
what
you
I
go.
did
I
there?
like that. I like
You're
that.
welcome.
So, according to Ken Johnson, former supervisor of the Data and Photo Control Department of NASA's receiving lab during the Apollo lunar program, said the moon not only rang out, but the whole satellite wobbled in such a precise way that it was, in quotes, almost as though it had gigantic hydraulic damper struts inside it. So that's coming from a NASA dude himself. So what's crazy, what I realized is they don't say it straight out, but as time goes on, maybe like you said, just like Kubrick, they don't want their secret to just, not even secret in his case, but their work or whatever, you know, what they know.
He was
just,
sick about it, bro.
I think that's what we see in people
Yeah.
like this, and
Yeah,
the
he was
ones that I
sick.
mentioned,
They
Armstrong.
were like, "Are you proud of it? Are you proud of the film that you made?" And he goes, "It's devastating. I can't take credit for my work of art."
Bro, in one of these videos that they showed the disgusted looking faces on the astronauts when they returned back from
Yeah.
Apollo. And they even said, wouldn't you think they would be ecstatic? They just made it back home from such a, the chances of them surviving, going
Yeah.
that distance and coming back. And they weren't even like,
They didn't give a fuck.
they were like they saw some shit, bro, or they knew some shit or something. I don't know.
Or
I
they
don't
were
wanna
told,
even-
"Hey,"
Bro, they just didn't look happy.
or they were told, "Hey, if you say the truth, everyone you know dies." And they had that look on their face, like, "All right, bro, we won't say nothing."
Because I don't know if I wrote it here or not, and if I did, oh well, because I'll skip it then. But I think it was Armstrong. Yeah, I think I did write it. Buzz or Lance said, bro, when they landed, they were being monitored the whole time they were there. And they weren't talking about monitored by us.
Right. I understand.
I doubt he was talking about monitored by the Russians, because at
No.
that time we were supposed to be the first ones there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He said they were monitored the whole time they were there. And he went as far as to say they saw crafts on the moon. And he said, man, they were big, baby, or something like that. And they monitored us the whole time. That
That's
was
crazy.
his quotes, bro. They haven't. I heard the audio. All right, so this is the part I told you on the phone, and it correlated with some of the numbers you gave. With the moon being tiny compared to the sun, 400 times smaller, but much closer to us, it causes them to appear as equal disk. The moon is also just 1/400th of the distance between the Earth and the sun. The authors say the odds against this optical illusion taking place, they go on to cite respected scientist Isaac Asimov, who described this perfect visual alignment as the most unlikely coincidence imaginable. So it just so happens that the moon is 1/400th away from the sun in our vantage point, and it's also 1/400th the size, so that when we look at it in a perfect, when they line up, when we get a perfect eclipse, it perfectly blots out the sun. So they're proposing that that's too perfect to just be by chance. Somebody must have placed that to be so perfect. Now, obviously, most people would say, "Duh, James, God," or you know. But this is why they're proposing, like, this is not a natural occurrence. You know, that's what they're proposing, because they're saying other moons there is no similar correlation in our universe to what we are experiencing. It's perfect, or it was placed there perfectly for a reason. You know, to have an effect on humanity for whatever reason, who knows. What else was I going to get into? So we're talking about the astonishing synchronicity the moon has with the sun. When the sun is at its lowest and weakest in midwinter, the moon is at its highest and brightest, and the reverse occurs in midsummer, both set at the same point on the horizon at the equinoxes and the opposite point at the solstices. What are the chances that the moon would naturally find an orbit so perfect that it would cover the sun at an eclipse and appear from the earth to be the same size? What are the chances that the alignments would be so perfect at the equinoxes and solstices? Not to mention, as we all know, that we only see one side of the moon because it rotates perfectly, so that as it turns and turns around us, we only see the face of the moon that we see constantly. So not only is it perfectly aligned with the sun so that it leaves a corona where all you see is a light around our moon, and it also moves around us perfectly to where we only see one side of it. So they're saying, like, yo, bro, what's up? You know what I mean? That just seems too strange to be coincidence. All right, so it doesn't spin like your typical celestial bodies, and not sharing character. Oh, they call that something lock. It's locked with us. And they say there's another example of it. I think there's another moon that has a lock system, but it's highly improbable. And, you know, of course, I put the Newton's law in there because I don't believe necessarily in gravitational pull. I believe more in electromagnetic pull. So that's why I'm just going along with the science that's stated that people understand. So yeah, it doesn't spin like any other celestial body, doesn't share any characteristics with other moons found in our solar system other than the one that I stated, but it's still, the size, it doesn't equate, just the locking of the spin, the orbit. Oh, and what's with the other side? Okay. So there's structures found on the moon that you can look up on Google, that people have found with Google Maps and, you know, Google Universe, whatever it's called, or with their own telescopes, structures that even appear to be pyramid in shape or have right corners, you know, that are man-made. They line up with the Great Pyramids. And there's also been lights being seen on the moon and spotted on the moon. So, in comparison to Jupiter's moon, our moon is 72 times larger than what they say it should be, what a normal moon would be. You know what I mean?
So Jupiter's moon is basically about a quarter of the size of our moon.
Probably. Whatever in comparison to Jupiter that moon is, they said our moon would be like 30 miles across if it was what Jupiter's moon is to Jupiter. But ours instead is a quarter of the mass of, not the mass, but the size of our planet. So it's not even close to 30 miles. You know what I mean?
And I'm asking because I don't know. How many moons does Jupiter have? One?
That's a good question. We should look that up because I don't know, because I didn't really look into Jupiter's moon. I was looking into, obviously,
All right, Johnny, can you look that up real quick? How many moons does Jupiter have?
Here's some numbers for you because I know you like the numbers.
Please, fire away.
Between the moon and the Earth, you can fit 108 moons. Oh. Damn, Jupiter has 79 moons? Nice.
Wow.
Between the moon and the Earth, you can fit 108 moons, okay? Between the Earth and the sun, you can fit 108 suns. Wait, hold on. That doesn't seem to make sense. I think Earths. That must be between the Earth and the sun, you can fit 108 Earths. Okay, and then the sun across the diameter of the sun is 108 Earths. So for
there's
some
that number,
reason, that
108.
108, yeah. So boom, I knew you would like that one.
And 432, because
the
432 is the diameter. It was like 432 million miles in diameter.
So
yeah,
yeah,
that tied right back into what we were talking about.
I covered the craters.
And that's how we do it on
feel
Kush and
me?
Kim
We didn't even
Trails.
Kush and Kim Trails, the world's most dangerous podcast.